Good evening. Evelyn, could you please give the invocation?
May we bow our heads. Father, in Jesus' name, we give you thanks for our city government and its elected officials and those that are running for election in April. We hold our present officials in prayer for every decision that will be made on behalf of all the citizens of our city. We ask that skillful and godly wisdom be in the hearts of all of our officials and that knowledge is pleasant to them. We ask that you continue to surround the mayor with men and women who have their hearts and ears attentive to your counsel and to do right for our city. Father, every ordinance and regulation, we leave it in your hands to lead and direct us, so that as they are put in place, there will be peace in our city, according to 1 Timothy 2:1-3. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Evelyn. Now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Borneman,
Here.
Alderperson Monroe is absent. Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker,
Here.
Shadle,
Here.
Misick,
Here.
and Barr.
Here.
If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Misick. Alderman Misick, the meeting's yours.
Is there approval of the agenda minus number 11?
So moved. Second.
Okay, first by Busker and seconded by Ross. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing that, the motion passes. Number 5, approval of minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting held on February 13th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Okay, first by Shadle, second by Parker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Number 6, there's public comments. I don't see none, correct? There is no public comments. And number 7, swearing-in ceremony by Mayor Miller.
Is it turned on in here? Okay, so you want to bring it up a little closer so that way our listening audience can hear you. If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Nicole Farley,
I, Nicole Farley,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the Office of Patrol Officer
of the Office of Patrol Officer
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome once again on behalf of Bill and I. We're exceptionally pleased to see you standing here and joining our team with the City of Freeport. As you know, the competition is tough to become a police officer, so you should be very proud of yourself. We're really proud of you, because one of the things that Bill and the other 3 commissioners we take very seriously is who we welcome onto the department, because this is a department of awesome individuals, and they deserve nothing but our best choices to help support them and ultimately to help support all of us as citizens. So the fact that you're standing here today means that you're pretty special. So congratulations on that. What I get the opportunity or the privilege to do is to actually read your official commission. So I'll read that to you. So this is the official commission, City of Freeport, Board of Fire and Police Commission. To all to whom these presents shall come, Nicole J. Farley, having been duly appointed to the office of patrolman in and for the City of Freeport in the county of Stevenson and the state of Illinois for the term from the 13th day of March 2023 until her successor shall have been duly appointed and qualified, is hereby fully authorized to perform all the duties of her said office according to the law and ordinance of said city. And all persons are required to respect her in the discharge of her said duties by the order of the Board and Fire Police Commission. Congratulations. Welcome once again.
Thanks to everyone for the support, for anyone who came and.
Good. Number 8, continued discussion regarding branding designs presented by Director Sutter.
Thank you. Just as a little bit of background, back in August of 2022, the City Council made a motion to proceed with a request for proposals regarding branding and logo development for the city, and Graham Spencer was selected. During that time, we went through a research process where 20 logo designs were then shown to a stakeholders committee. And then from that stakeholders committee, we took 2 of those logos to present to City Council, the 2 strongest logos we felt for City Council consideration. The first logo that we went through was the pretzel in the shape of the heart, and it touched upon the Pretzel City heritage. And then the second logo includes a modern design with a leaf to indicate the green spaces and incorporate the Pecatonica River. And upon the City Council request that public input be noted, I ended up presenting the 2 logo concepts to different marketing professionals here in Freeport and to the Greater Freeport Partnership. The Freeport area marketing professionals unanimously preferred the leaf design as it highlights green spaces as one of Freeport's greatest assets. And then additionally, through different discussions with citizens, like at the 4th Ward Neighborhood Watch meeting, for example, those citizens indicated that they preferred the green leaf logo as well. So I just open it up for discussion to see what your pleasure is.
Ross?
Yes. When you say the green leaf logo, which one are you speaking of? The middle one or the one off? Okay, go ahead, point them out.
Yeah, that would be this one, which is the green leaf logo here. These 2 were very similar, but we ended up going with this one. And then this was the heart pretzel one. I think to bring these up closer, these were the 2 designs that were recommended to be brought forward. The other ones were the initial 20 that were provided to the stakeholders committee.
Okay, thank you.
Parker?
Yes, out of these 2, I appreciate you making me copies to take around. And I probably talked to about 20, 25 people, and about 3 of them like the pretzel-shaped one, and all the rest like that one. So I'm really happy with it.
Thank you.
Borneman?
There's some of the logos that have a star, and I was wondering if there's any significance behind the star. I know that is in our current seal, I don't know if they took it from that or if there was some backstory behind that.
Yeah, I believe that the star was reminiscent of the previous, our city seal. And then it also brings forth imagery of the Star Spangled Banner, the flag. So I think that's why they incorporated the star. And then if you wanted to dig into the other logos, there were a lot of bird references because of Bird City designation.
Is there any other discussion, council?
I'm sorry, yes.
Go ahead.
So, the pretzel one, I agree. I'm not a fan of the pretzel one. That's just me personally, not because of any other reason. I just think it looks a little too modern, personally. I'm more of a traditionalist, but, and again, I as well appreciate you bringing, or narrowing it down to two. I'm struggling a little bit with the green space piece of the leaf, and I don't know if there's been any other feedback. I wouldn't have known that, I wouldn't have drawn that unless you would have said that. So I'm just curious if there, if the comments around that, what kind of feedback you may have received on that.
Sure, so I'll touch a little bit upon what prompted that and then how it can be paired design-wise. So when you look at a logo, there are a lot of things in a ton of different logos that are not ever immediately apparent. Like, I'm not sure if you can imagine the FedEx logo right off the top of your mind, but there's, a hidden arrow here, and then all of these different corporate logos have hidden meanings behind it, and we as the average consumer don't really dig that deep into it. However, when it's paired with the identity of what that organization is or what that corporation is, you kind of naturally feel it without forward thinking. So throughout the research process that Graham Spencer did, when they interviewed all of the stakeholders that we had and discussed, what do you believe Freeport's identity is? What do you think Freeport's greatest assets are? Again and again, our parks were brought up as Freeport's best asset. So the green spaces is what prompted some of these designs. You'll see that green kind of pops up again and again, mostly based off of that discussion. But going back to this logo, when you pair it with imagery of our green spaces or, boulevards that are lined with trees, then you naturally get the green spaces. So the Freeport logo won't often stand alone. It will usually be paired with other imagery. And so we would hope that you would get the larger aspect of green spaces, not just, from a couple of little lines of color. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely does. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you. The one problem I've got with the green space piece there is the font of Freeport and the size of City of and Illinois. I mean, how many times have you searched the web? You get Freeport, Bahamas, you get Freeport, New York. There's a lot of other Freeports, and that was my big problem with that. And the color scheme of the other, the one that was chosen, is definitely not aligned with anything that we have in the city. And I think that's why a lot of the aldermen kind of asked for additional thoughts on things. And I can barely read the letters. I put them on and I still can't. I think K and L, the two Freeports, Freeport, Illinois, with one with the star, one with the pretzel. And, I think the other one that's pretty bold is the pretzel with the City of Freeport. I think it could use some design changes, but I'm worried about the readability of that. And when we saw it on a couple of different items, and one city manager sent out, another one you displayed in the previous meeting, it doesn't stand out. I mean, it is not something that I think represents what the city of Freeport really is. And that's my concern with them. And a few people that I've spoken to have said the same thing. So, that's my 2 cents.
So just to narrow down, do you believe that it is the font in particular that throws off that logo? Or is it the concept as a whole?
The concept's not bad, but I think it was a bad choice of fonts. And I think the size of the fonts, not just the font itself, but the size, I think, from a readability standpoint, it's not, if we're gonna go to this, we're probably going to this for how many years? I mean, when was the last time we changed? It's, longer than I've been around this area.
Alderperson Parker?
Question, is this the font that would be on our water towers and stuff then? Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Alderperson Busker?
Yeah. Yeah, my thought on the one in script there, more and more I've noticed the younger generations kind of struggling to read script. So and the last time we did a logo change, I think it was, well, I'm 42 and it's been the same one since I've been alive, so I'm kind of wondering if it's going to stand the test of time before something comes before another council in the future, and if it's going to be like you're searching it on the web or something, are people going to recognize and be able to tell that where we are, what it is? I like the concept. You had one up there with it in big block letters in print that was very similar, but I'm just concerned of how well that's going to stand up over time.
I did go back to Graham Spencer to ask, particularly for the F in Freeport, or, sorry, I keep switching between the different PDFs, but it is what it is. The F in Freeport, playing around with it to be a capital F. With the particular font that they chose, it looked really funky with the capital F. It kind of threw off the feng shui, if you will. But it certainly could be brought back to Graham Spencer to say, if we like the general concept of the leaf design, we'd like to see it with an alternative font that increases readability. So that is an option.
Alderperson?
If that, with that option on the table, do you know, not to necessarily speak for them, I know that this is something that you'd mentioned that projects are waiting for some of this, so you want to move this. What kind of time frame would we be looking at from Graham Spencer?
I mean, they could change the font without changing the general concept relatively quickly. The only hurdle is then going back to city council to double check, to triple check, to keep going back and forth. And then going to city council for approval for first reading and then second reading, or whether it's a resolution, however that goes. But we just would like to have a little bit of direction. So when we start working on these signage projects, like for the new water treatment plant and for the water tower, that we'd like to have that sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Alderperson Shadle?
I'm not personally thrilled with either one of those. The script, Freeport, I'm more of a traditionalist, I guess, and I'm not taking really, neither one is really jumping at me and saying this is really what we want to do. There was a couple on the other sheet, the top center on each one of the other slides that you had would probably fit my taste a little better, but my opinion, I guess. Thank you.
Boardman?
Well, I'll chime in. I don't know how helpful it will be. Over the past few weeks, I've actually grown to like the City of Freeport leaf more than I first saw it. And the script, I think, is kind of, it's hard to read at first, but I do think it's a unique kind of, I think it's a feature of the logo, but it does seem weird to have a lowercase f, but that's just the style. My holdback from this one, though, is that it reminds me of a Park District logo, rather. And we talk about how great our parks are, but we got to remember, City of Freeport doesn't own the parks. So I thought and just it didn't really strike me originally, but I have grown to like that one. I think that's something I could move forward with. I'm not sure how great that would look on a water tower. It might look good. Might be just too many words. So then moving on, the pretzel one, I understand there's a lot of people who feel that it's more of the school district's thing, and if you didn't go to Freeport, you wouldn't appreciate it. But you got to remember that the school district picked the pretzels because they were in Freeport, not vice versa. It's not like just a random mascot. They picked it because it was historic and fitting for the town, the city. So, that's something to take into consideration. The heart is unique. I liked the tagline that went with the heart. That was the heart of the heartland. I'm not sure if these other ones have taglines with them. And then there's a couple others I like, but I don't know how helpful it is to throw out other ones. But the Freeport one that has the water and the O, I think that could be a decent one because, it plays on the name of Freeport. But at the same time, when you think of Freeport, I don't think your first thought is water. And I do like K and L. They're basic or kind of simple, but I think they're pretty kind of uncontroversial picks. With that being said, I know, like I said, this isn't going to be very helpful. I could live with either the leaf as is or the heart pretzel, or, there's several that I'm partial towards. So I've heard, and then just to add what people have said, there was a lot of good feedback for the leaf logo as is with that script. I also, I just sent out the first two, and there was a lot of people who were in favor of the heart pretzel, which is a unique design, but it is certainly, not a traditional look. It's more modern and new, but it's, I think it'd stand out. But, so like I said, I don't know how helpful this is, but I feel like this is discussion, so we should all just kind of put our 2 cents in, and that's mine.
Ross?
When they first came up, I was totally in favor of the heart pretzel when you first showed it. Because when it comes to Freeport, people, shall we say, recognize Pretzel City, and it's Freeport. But then again, I am in favor, but then again, you have the city Freeport with the pretzel in the middle. And like you said, though, it's kind of like people may recognize it more because of the pretzels. Not for the school, but just that's what the talk is, the pretzels. So, but the heart shape, I'm still in favor of the heart shape, yes. I think it would look pretty good way up there in the air. I think it's pretty noticeable. Pretty noticeable. So I'm in favor of that one.
Bar? Is it possible if you, excuse me, if you do go back to them with regards to the font on the leaf to also, it's my 2 cents for the colors on the pretzel, if that were to change, that might sway me. I agree with Alderman Ross. I think, again, it's a pretzel city. I liked, I think it was L, the pretzel in the middle.
Yep.
I think it's unique. It's a unique thing about our city that people are known, or that we are known for, Pretzel City, and I don't mind that at all being part of the Pretzel City. So, if the colors change, I think it might make a little difference in regards to maybe the thoughts of myself and maybe others even.
Sure, I can talk a little bit about the colors for the pretzel. There are really only 2 colors that you can use for a pretzel that are colors, not just black or white. And that would be orange or brown. And unfortunately, brown is not an attractive color. You don't see many logos at all utilizing the color brown. And orange, so this is kind of, you know, a mash between the orange or the brown. It's more of a rustic orange for the current pretzel design that you see. Going back to the other pretzel designs that you might see here, you know, this is a much brighter orange. The argument that I've seen that was expressed in that stakeholders meeting was this orange is the same orange that the school uses. So then you're dipping a little bit too close to, I mean, it's not copyright infringement. You don't have to worry about that. But repping the same mascot colors, because really the only colors that you can pair with that orange would be black. You couldn't really add much yellow because yellow doesn't stand out in signage. So it would have to be a darker color, either a navy blue or a black of some sort. And with navy blue, then you touch upon Highland. So those are just some thoughts from a graphic design perspective that I've had experience with. So you would be kind of locked into those two particular colors.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, council? Seeing none, we move on to
Director Sutter, was there something you wanted to take away from this?
Well, I would be hoping to gain some sort of direction from council as to whether or not I go back to Graham Spencer and say one logo was preferred over the other, or one logo was preferred but we'd like to see a change in the font perhaps, or a change in the color. I would just like a little bit of direction so we can continue these projects.
Borneman?
Okay, so it sounds, from if I can summarize what I've heard, the leaf logo is certainly an option. I think some people want to see it, the font played with a bit to make it, to improve readability. And I personally, the other leaf logo with the leaf just sitting there just doesn't look that great because leaves kind of, you know, wave in the air, and just sitting there, it just seems like a weird looking eye or oval looking at you. So I didn't like that. So one directive here is to see if Graham Spencer can play with the font to make it a little more readable and flow better with number E. And then I don't know. I get it with the heart logo, that is like it's an odd color, but I get now that you mention it, like we would be just have that concern of branding are supposed to set ourselves apart, where we're taking the school district's kind of theme of a pretzel along with the exact same color scheme. Probably not ideal. So I guess the motion is, or directive is, to see if Graham Spencer can come back with a font on number E, and then I'll leave that open if somebody else wants to get a different kind of feel for any other ones. But right now, that's what we're looking at. Please, somebody else chime in.
Husker?
Yeah, I would like to see a different font on the leaf one as well. I'm definitely in favor of seeing that, but talking about the pretzel, the heart pretzel there, you mentioned that yellow isn't something that you'd use on signage because it washes out, yet, you know, I see yellow in that design, so kind of wondering how that would work. And just kind of a thought I had, maybe with, I think it was K or L, with the pretzel in the middle, I don't know if we'd be able to incorporate the heart-shaped pretzel in with that. I don't know if they'd be able to show us something there. You know, those are the only two recommendations I would have on the, like, just to see how that would look.
And then if I could add one more.
Ornament?
So is anybody else, so it sounds like we have two up here, and then we have some interest in L. Is there any others that people want to grab onto before we move forward and narrow it down?
Director Sutter, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, in graphic design, usually to really utilize a good logo, you have 3 colors. You have primary color, and then 2 kind of, 2 secondary colors that you can use in a bunch of different designs. You know, if you're making some sort of document, you have 2 different colors that you can utilize in headings. The reason why I brought up yellow is that it cannot be the primary color. The yellow can't be the primary color just because it doesn't work very well. So when you think of the McDonald's logo, the yellow is the secondary color. The red is usually the main color that really brings your eye to it. So there's nothing truly wrong with using yellow. It just can't be the thing that's supposed to draw your eye, if that makes sense.
I guess
Borneman?
one more thing. Did you personally have any thoughts on like both of the 2 that are up there now on a water tower? What do you think either of them would be suitable for that type of design on that scale?
On that type of design, on that type of scale, I believe that the Leaf logo would look better.
Thanks. Well, like,
Alderman Parker?
yeah, Mr. Parker.
I like the one with the leaf too. The only thing I say, I've traveled the whole country, and a lot of times I'm not sure what town I'm going in, and I'll see the water tower. So I want it easy enough to read that you know you're in Freeport when you're coming through. That's just with me, so, thank you.
Anything else, Director Sutter?
I certainly believe that font logo could be looked at, and it would still maintain the same overall concept, because the script is supposed to signal, you know, a flowing design, a flowing modern design, and there are other script options, other font options that would be more readable and would still suit this design.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move on.
All right, so this will just come back to committee then, the next committee, for an update then? Is that what the council's intent is?
Parker?
If she's on a time limit, we want to put it maybe on the next council meeting, not wait a whole month for another cow, my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Parker on that. If that's a motion, I'd second it.
Okay, there's a motion made by Alderman Parker and seconded by Alderman Borneman to move this to the next council meeting.
All right, so just to clarify, the motion is to move the logo topic to the next council meeting with direction for staff to have the design firm update the Leaf logo with some different fonts, and then exploring the other pretzel design to see if they can incorporate the heart pretzel into it. Do you have Kevin, do you have those letters that Alderman Borneman referenced as far as the?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I get a copy of those as well for minutes? Okay, thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Chair, sorry, I missed the motion and all of that. I mean, not the motion. Who made the motion and the second?
First was Parker, and second was Borneman.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, line number 9, continued discussion regarding revising grease trap, presented by Director Boyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In February of 2022, City Council approved changes to Ordinance 1046.12 pretreatment generally interceptors, including language that requires grease trap separation devices for commercial wastewater contributors. Since adopting the grease separation device language, staff requests additional changes to the ordinance to clarify and provide enforcement flexibility. First, staff requests a change to the specification language related to the capacity of required grease traps identified in the ordinance. The current specification calls for a device with an 80-gallon capacity and 74-gallon per minute flow rate. Staff recommends changing the specification to a permanent flow rate of 20 gallons per minute. That's a reduction in the capacity, just to be clear. This change will provide enforcement flexibility and reduce compliance costs for commercial users. Second, staff requests the addition of a provision allowing for an exemption process in the case that food preparation businesses do not, in the view of the Director of Public Works, contribute fats, greases, and oils to the publicly owned treatment works. That came up at the last time we discussed this in the case of one of the businesses there that does cold preparation and doesn't do any cooking. And then lastly, staff recently experienced issues with a food preparation establishment where the grease trap was improperly installed and is allowing contents from the grease trap to back up in the parking lot and to overland flow to a local stormwater catch basin. Staff requests change to the ordinance to allow for recapturing any costs incurred by the city during emergency service work due to non-performing grease traps. So, staff requests City Council approve the amendments, and we can, move it forward to the next committee of or next council meeting.
Any discussion, council? Monroe?
So just to be clear, if they're not physically cooking, frying, whatever, then they don't need a grease trap? Is that how I understand that?
Yes, although, it's not that cut and dried. We'd have to look at their application, review it, and if it's deemed to not be contributing anything to the POTW, then the exemption would be granted.
Alderman Park?
So thank you for coming back with this. I like this. My question in regards to the recovery of funds, if we have to go after, I'm not familiar with the engineering of this. Obviously, it's not my expertise by any stretch. So how would we know? In other words, would we have to have an expert, do some sort of testing or figure out if this was the cause for a backup that was, something that failed, whether it be mechanical or improperly used? How would we know that it was the responsibility of the owner?
If you're referring to recapturing the city's costs,
yes, I'm sorry,
basically, if it's flowing down the street, the city's got to do something about it. We want to be able to recover our costs associated with remediating the situation. That doesn't deal with it permanently. All this is designed to do is have the city be able to recapture whatever costs we have related to an immediate acute problem that we have to deal with. We actually had this situation happen just this last month.
Due to failure of a system or just improper? I mean, I guess I'm just not sure. That's why. And I'm not.
Well, we're not entirely sure what is causing it at this point. All we know is when we see it coming out of the grease trap, running down the street, going down the drive approach and into the catch basin, we need to do something about that. Yeah. So we need the ability to recapture any of our costs related to servicing it immediately. In that particular case, we don't have time to wait for somebody to come from Rockford and, schedule it into their schedule and show up.
Sure.
Something's got to be done with it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Barneman?
With regards to that last aspect of the cost recovery, I'd recommend the city just adopt maybe like a general cost recovery ordinance. I mean, not that it's wrong to have one in here, but in situations where somebody's violating an ordinance and it causes the city to have to do some act like that, I think the city's well within its rights to have kind of a catch-all ordinance that says, in this situation, the person, if they were doing something in violation of the ordinance and then it caused the city to do something, the city is entitled to the recovery of the costs. And I've seen that to even include legal fees from in other areas. So that's something maybe just to note about our general code. Okay. And then as with respect to this, when we were looking through this last time, is it possible to have a definition of grease, or is it?
Well, it's generally referred to as fog. fats, oils, and greases. That's what the terminology is.
Okay, so there's a general understanding, like in the industry, that what grease means.
Yeah, I know it sounds like a general term, but basically anything that would float on the water, congeal, and then cause sewer apparatuses to not be able to flow normally. So
Okay, so like in your field, that's kind of a general. It's like a term of art. It's not necessarily, because when I think of grease, it's probably different from what Mr. Monroe thinks and everything. But there's actually like a term of art that this means a certain thing.
you're right. Fats, oils, and greases is a standard terminology in the wastewater industry that refers to anything that basically floats in the waste stream.
And then the last one is how does how is the procedure worked out in this ordinance where one would become aware that they're not in compliance with the ordinance? Like, how does the city learn of that?
Through the inspection schedule.
Okay.
Or if we have in this particular case, we have a complaint of it running down the street, that would be another example.
Sure. Well, thanks for making these changes. I think it looks fair to me.
Mr. Chair.
Busker?
Yeah, with the updates and whatnot, I'd like to see this move forward, so I'd like to make a motion to move it to the next city council meeting for consideration.
Okay, there's a motion made.
Excuse me. This is in the middle. Attorney Zito, we already have a motion and a
Do we?
second from a previous meeting. Second reading is going to March 20th.
At the last, if I may, Mr. Chairman, at the last city council meeting, there were some questions that were brought up, so the motion was to bring it to the committee of the whole. So we did have first reading on this ordinance already. So it's just a matter of putting it back on the council agenda for second reading with the amendments that we talked about.
Okay. Disregard then. It's already taken care of.
That means we moved it to line item 10, right? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to line item number 10, discussion regarding increasing number of Ethics Commission appointees and removing term limits for Historic Preservation Commission. Manager Bucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to take the Ethics Commission first. Our Ethics Commission was established in 2005 with 3 members on that board. The term of the board members is 2 years, and there's a possibility, even though the commission has met very infrequently, that there could possibly be a conflict at one time or another where one person on the board would not be able to serve. And so it's, after looking at this, staff's recommendation that the city council consider adding 2 additional members to that board, and that you move this issue forward to the next council meeting.
Discussion, council?
Boardman? I'm sorry, but why are we removing term limits for the? I missed that if you said that.
No, the only thing we're doing with the Ethics Commission is we're adding 2 more members to it.
Sure, but we're also dealing with the Historic Preservation Commission?
I'm just talking about ethics right now.
Oh, okay.
Monroe?
City manager, if we've not had many things come up, why would we want to expand it, to go to more people?
Again, you never know when you might have a conflict, and therefore you only have 2 people, and you could have a tie vote, so it's better to have 5 people.
Mr. Chair.
Oscar?
Yeah, Manager Bucas, has there ever been an issue where we've been having any trouble finding people to serve on this board? Or is it going to be an issue to find 2 more people to serve on that?
It's always an issue to find people to serve on our boards and commissions.
If my recollection is correct, it's only met one time in the last 6 years.
I agree.
I move to add 2 people to it.
Seconded by, yeah, okay. So there's been a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Borneman, I think we're moving this along, right? Yeah, okay. Let's move this along. Oh, yes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
The second,
Oh, yes, the second part, I'm sorry.
the second item is the Historic Preservation Commission that was created as a mechanism to help identify and preserve the historic and architectural characteristics of the city. The committee is made up between 5 and 9 members. This is one that we do have an issue of trying to find people to serve. Again, it meets infrequently, mostly at the time when we're having the facade grant application process. So they probably meet twice a year usually. They serve a 3-year term, and the current ordinance says they cannot serve more than 2 successive 3-year terms. The problem we have sometimes is we appoint people to fill a vacancy, and then that kind of limits how many years they're actually serving because it's 2 terms. They're filling out 1 term and then the full term. So of looking at this, we're looking at we're asking council to consider making, we're going to keep it at 2 to 6 of terms, that they be 4-year terms with a maximum of 10 years. So if somebody's appointed midterm, they can then serve 2 full terms. There again, we're looking for people that have engineering, architectural experience, art experience in that. And like we do with all our committees, I said earlier, we have a problem finding people. So the ones we have, we like to keep. And I believe right now we only have 5 people on that commission.
Borneman?
Okay, so the agenda's a little misleading. It says removing term limits. We're just making them longer.
Correct.
Oh,
Yes.
No offense, Ms. Clerk, I just wrote the agenda, but that to me, I mean, if you have somebody who's willing to serve on this, and like you said, it's hard to find people willing to do so, and if they're fit to continue service according to whoever's in the mayor's chair at that time, I think we should extend their availability to serve. So I would approve
And I
this.
think that's the only board that has limits. So, I mean, if it's the council's pleasure, remove the whole term. I mean, you can serve on a building commission forever. Any other commissions, it's the only one that has a limit.
So
That is correct.
I guess my thought is it's nice, maybe it might be helpful because for somebody when they sign on to have an understanding of their commitment, and then like when to anticipate needing more members rather than having, it's kind of just you guys serve at the pleasure until you are removed or resign. I do like the idea of term limits.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, pause here.
Yeah. Typically, I am in favor of term limits too. I think, you need to have changeover in blood, but the Historic Preservation Commission, I feel that's kind of a niche group that, people have the passion and the expertise that it's going to keep things the way they are instead of trying to do a bunch of different changes. They want to preserve the, hence the name Preservation Committee. They want to preserve that history. So, my feeling is that, if you do have someone on there that is capable and willing to serve longer, there should be an avenue for that as well. I don't know how we could satisfy both, but
Borneman?
Well, we could just remove the maximum service time. Would be one way to do it. But that'd be one way to do it.
Busker?
Mr. Boardman, just so I understand this, have a term, but not have a necessary amount of terms that you could serve, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right. That'd be one way to theoretically do what you're suggesting.
Yeah, every one of our committee and boards and commissions has a term, so they know when their seats expire.
Okay, so
Boardman?
so you're saying that this is the only one that has a maximum amount you can, oh, okay. So all right, sorry, I didn't understand that earlier. Well, Mayor, would you be suggesting just removing the term maximum,
Actually, yeah, I'm okay with that because they literally meet once, maybe twice a year, and so it's a very limited amount of meetings that they're committed to. So if they can only serve 3 times, I'm okay. What I look for is do they fit well in their commission? Do they show up to the meetings? Do they partake in discussions? Is it really fit them? That's what I look for, and most of the time, people are willing to serve, so.
Make a motion to remove the term limits on this this board.
Second that.
Just to clarify, so there was discussion or a request from staff to change the term from 3 years to 4 years. And then what I'm hearing is, so it'd be a 4-year term, but with no limit then on how many successive 4-year terms a person could serve if they wanted to.
Yeah, apologize, correct, yes.
Okay, so that's the
Motion
motion
is
to
stated.
change the term from 3 years to 4 years and then remove the cap on the number of successive terms that a member could serve.
Yes.
Chair, may I please?
Yes.
I believe Alderperson Borneman already made a motion, or did that really not get all the way through?
I think I just said I'd be in favor of it, but I will withdraw any motion that I have.
Anything you might have said.
Yeah.
So there's a motion made by Alderman Busker, and then seconded by Parker, right?
No, I did.
Oh, Shadle, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
And then if I could, before we move on,
Borneman?
being that this was the only committee that had, our commission that had term limits, I just ask our council to confirm there was no statutory requirement that our maximum terms or service time is something that we don't know about by statute.
No, there's nothing that would regulate us on this, especially with us being home rule.
Thanks.
Line number 12, discussion regarding HVAC proposal for library building, presented by Director Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman Mizek. The library's HVAC system needs updates and repairs. Every year, we spend a significant amount of money on repairs and upkeep of the library's HVAC system. This system includes 3 boilers and 2 rooftop AC units, all of which have reached their lifetime. We recently sat in meetings with Helm, our contracted service company, and learned the cost of this project is well outside what the library can afford. Maintaining the integrity of the library building is integral to the services we offer the community, which includes acting as a warming and cooling shelter. The library will continue to move forward with creation of a request for proposal to replace our HVAC system. And in coordination with the city manager and the finance director, staff recommends permission to research and seek financial assistance to finance a large-scale HVAC project at the Freeport Public Library. And the reason why we bring this to the table is because we would like to use your assistance with just deciding how to finance it. Just as a reminder, the library does not receive income from sales tax, food and beverage tax, personal property replacement taxes, or any capital improvement funding. All large-scale projects like this are completely self-funded through our tax levy and any of the donations that we get from the library's foundation. On your desk, you'll see a spreadsheet that lists out a history of the library's levy from 2012 to 2021. And you can see that other than a drop between 2013 and 2014, which we are still currently researching to understand where that came from, we have stayed pretty flat in what our increases in income are, especially for that long of a period of time. We did total it all the way to the right. So from 2012 to 2021, we are seeing $238,000 less than what we did in that amount of time. We have adjusted some of our levies to make sure that we are only requesting what we are using, so that we do not have large restricted fund balances that we actually cannot use for things like replacing our HVAC system. At this point in time, I would entertain any questions that you might have.
Alderman Ross?
Yes, are there any grants out there available that you may know of to help along with this task?
Yeah, we can look into a couple of them. Unfortunately, they are not always funded every year. So there's different library funding grants, and they're very highly competitive because we only have so many grants that libraries can apply for. And it can take a while to get the funds released.
Thank you.
Alderman Borneman?
So, sorry, I'm a little confused what you're asking us. What are you asking for approval for tonight, exactly?
Well, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to do it?
That's fine. We have a major concern at the library, and it's been brewing for a while. And we did look at a proposal from Helm as part of a consortium, and the amount of funds that they're requesting over a 10-year period far exceeds what the library can afford, especially the first 3 or 4 years. What we're looking at is possibly going to bonding. It'd be nice if our state rep and our state senator could put something through in the Capitol bill. Whether they can or not, I don't know. Whether it passes or not, it gets signed is a completely another story. But as I told the library director, that we're probably looking at some kind of 15-year bond to pay for this improvement, and it would have to go on the property tax, because there's no way that the city could afford it in its current stance. So
Mr.
that's
Chair.
why we're asking for, to give us some opportunities to look at some alternatives and how we might be able to fund this.
Director Huffines, I understand the whole library tax levy part of it, but what happens with the money that's in the foundation?
The foundation has a specific goal of what they would like to manage and fund, and that does not include maintaining our building. They like to be support and offer supplement so we can do larger type programs and to support the staff as well as the community for different things that we do. However, that being said, in 2021, they did give us $20,000 to update and upgrade our software for our HVAC system. So we have recently gone to them to ask for funding for our HVAC specifically. Did that help?
Yeah, I don't know, would they consider maybe doing a matching or some? I mean, I get where they want to be specific on what they have, but I mean,
it's on the table. I mean, it's definitely one of the discussions that we have. But I know that's a lot of money to request, and it's not visible. So it's hard for them to want to fund that, but it is a conversation that will be had.
And then to Manager Bucus' point, has anybody approached our senator or our representative on these?
No,
Is it
I have
planned?
not. I'm not sure if the city manager has.
We just started discussing this issue in the last week or so, we have not. And there are deliberations that'll be starting sometime on the budget. But this fiscal year's budget, I believe, no, they're still working on it. The General Assembly just finished their spring session, I believe was today. And so we'll be in contact with our state rep and our state senator to see how we can get them to incorporate some money for the HVAC system at the library.
Parker?
And as was mentioned too, any type of funding we do, we will be, I will be asking the foundation to participate in that as well.
Thank you. Parker?
I guess it's a little difficult for me to understand until we know what kind of money we're talking to go out and look for funding. So we need to find out what do you need, what is gonna be the cost, and then we can go out looking for funding. It's just my opinion.
The cost is at around $900,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor Siegel?
I was just going to say that the representatives have some select spending money that is available, and we were going to try to apply for that for some of the HVAC opportunities. It's a long shot, but there is not a lot of avenues for libraries, so it could be a pet project. So Randy had given us direction to try to move forward with that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Busker?
Guess my first question is, how long has this been an issue?
We spend a lot yearly. This is one of the things that I noticed when I came in as the library director in late 2018, is how much money was getting spent on certain areas of our maintenance of our building, and one of those was HVAC. So over the course of time, I've been tracking it. I did meet with Helm about a year ago and had a very similar conversation about what's the plan, because we are spending so much money on maintenance and repair, and I don't really think that that is how we should be maintaining and preserving this building. There were a lot of Band-Aid practices going on before I started with the HVAC specifically, and that was because they weren't spending the money to do the larger repairs. And I have done that, spent the money on the larger repairs. So from 2020 to 2023, the library, out of the just normal yearly budget, has spent $76,000 on repairs and upkeep for the HVAC, and that does not include the $20,000 that the foundation gave us. So as a total, we are roughly just under $97,000 for 3 years in repairs and upkeep for the HVAC, and that is why we are bringing this to the table.
Alderman Monroe?
Do we know who installed this heating and?
Helm did. They were on the project when the building was built.
In 2003?
Correct.
So we were having problems less than 15 years after it was installed.
The lifetime of the units is 20 years, which is now. There's a lot of decisions that were made that were well before any of our time at these tables, and that's just out of our control. At this point, the conversation with Helm is that we cannot award them this bid or a contract of that size without going to a request for proposal to see if we can get something that is a lot less money than what they are proposing. And that concern that they have been here the entire time is also on the table, which is why we go out for proposal.
Monroe?
Yes, yeah, I guess my concern is, you know, I've been around in a lot of schools and military buildings and government buildings in general, and these heating and air conditioning systems last significantly longer than that with no problems. They always have minor problems, they always need repairs. What types of issues are you having? Is it structural? Is it mechanical? Is it a combination of both?
It's more mechanical if we are using the same definition of mechanical. So we've had a lot of parts and pieces that are replaced, and our AC unit is probably on its last leg, but I am not an expert. We are kind of waiting for it to completely go out. We have replaced motors. We have redone a couple of our boiler pumps, and those are larger expenses. And then there's all of the areas that go throughout the building. So we have a bunch of VAVs that we also have replaced pre-me, but also I think I've only done about 3, but before I was library director, there were a lot more of them replaced. One of the things that Helm did look into was upgrading the actual system and not working with an outdated system. Part of the reason why it is expensive is because it's getting harder to find replacement parts for the age of the system and the type of the system that we have. Our boilers are on the entire year. They do not shut off. It's part of how the system works. The boilers and the AC work in conjunction with each other. It's not like your house where you turn on the furnace for the winter. And I don't know, because I'm not the expert, on whether or not that all has a play in what the lifetime is, because those units are almost always on.
Monroe?
Just a comment to make. I mean, this is, what, you said 900,000. On top of what the police department was asking for previously. I mean, we're looking at about $1.5 million of HVAC issues with 2 of our buildings. The work's been done by it seems like the same company, so maybe, I'm no problem with going outside of this. I'm very concerned that we go back to them if this is the type of situation we're in right now. So, I mean, you're just asking for permission to go ask for bids. I'll make a motion.
It's more than just going for bids, but looking at different financing options that may be out there. And as I said, nothing's guaranteed. We're hoping that we could at least limp through the summer, but it would be something that we're looking at trying to do this fall.
I don't know if I can do this or not, but if we're going to go out for a bid for this, I can't see where looking at something for the police department to fix that situation, which seems very precarious as well.
With the police department, their space is kind of limited, and they do need more space, so we'd be looking at actually a new building for the police department. That's one thing that's what we're looking at right now. Whether we buy something that's currently available or whether we build from scratch, but we're looking for a new building for the police department, because it's more than just their heating and air conditioning issues. There's asbestos issues in the floor, tiles, and other things.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Busker?
Yeah, with this being a 20-year-old building, it's kind of said that we're already looking at putting close to another $1 million into it this early on. I think it's definitely in the city's best interest to look at other vendors to see what they can offer, but, you know, again, it's a 20-year-old building. We need to be able to look at the funding to make sure that this building can last, so we're not, you know, looking at another building that we have to renovate for City Hall. You know, we already had to try find a use for one library. So, you know, I would like to make a motion to allow them to search for funding and to get bids.
I'll second that.
Okay. There's a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Monroe, so that the library can get, figure out funding and also get some bids for this project. Okay, line item number 13. Oh, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Line number 13, discussion regarding jet aviation refueler lease, presented by Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you recall, last year we had discussion on this item, or a similar item. We looked at possibly leasing a jet refueler from Eptic Aviation, and the cost landed up being close to $9,600. And we decided just to try to fix our current refueler, which we did. It cost us in the neighborhood of $5,000. It lasted about a year, and now we're having problems with the main portion of the jet refueler, and that is where you stick the nozzle into the back of the jet, and you could just do a direct fueling rather than getting on the wing and pumping it in the wing. We've been looking at trying to find another refueler if possible, and we found one with Epic Aviation. This one would be a lease for 1 year for 3,000 gallon refueler. Our current refueler is 2,200 gallons. The truck is estimated to cost us, I believe, $146 per month, or about $1,700 per year. There is also a delivery charge of around, we're estimating around $5,000, because the truck is currently in Texas someplace, and so we'd have to pay for shipping to bring it back up here. This item is not budgeted, but it is something that we need, and we'd like to try to use this refueler for at least 1 year, go into a 1-year lease agreement, and ask for council's approval on this.
Alderman Borneman?
The gas price at the airport, or the fuel price, is that set? Does the city have any say in setting that, and will that be augmented to pay for this?
We set the price of both aviation and aviation fuel and jet A fuel. We try to keep it as competitive as we can for areas around us. Right now, I believe Monroe's, I shouldn't say this out loud, Monroe's probably the only one that's lower than we are. But they don't pay a state tax on their fuel where we do. But no, we try to keep it competitive, because if you raise it too high, you're not going to have people stopping in. If you keep it competitive, the people will either stop in, or people that are visiting here will refuel on their return trip. So I think we have it in a pretty good price range right now.
I'll make a motion to move item number 13 forward.
Seconded. There's a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Ross. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 14, public comments. Are there any? Tommy?
I'm going to miss Matt Summer. He's doing good at that police chief in Freeport, and he's trying his best to. And we want it, and you do a good job, and you're the best one in police chief in Freeport. And Dwayne, will you update about that bill?
We're working hard on that building for you, Tommy.
And what about the camera on the Presto Transit?
Working on that too, Tommy.
Any other public comments?
I just wanted to throw out if you guys would like a second opinion on the HVAC equipment. We have partners that we work with all the time on city projects. I'd be happy to get one of them up at no charge to the city and have them review the system just to confirm that, you know, we are talking about that much replacement cost. Just to let me know if you'd like to take us up on that offer. We're doing some work for the Stevenson County Sheriff and the courthouse as well. So I'll have them in town, and I'm sure we can do an evaluation.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we're moving on to line number 15. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.